Hello, my name is Omar. I would like to document my thoughts about the ESP32 Cam. As you observe, it has no USB connection, and therefore we have to use a programmer. But my experience with this cheap camera, that it's worth buying, and it has few GPIOs that you can utilize. So let's look at the programmer. The programmer is the FTDI programmer, and it has 6 pins. We don't use DTR or the CTS for this application. And the Vcc voltage is to be supplied to the ESP32 Cam, and the voltage depends on the position of the jumper. It could be 5 volt if you place the jumper on the 5 volt position, and it could be 3.3 volt if you position the jumper on the 3.3 volt position, as we can see in this. So you have here the 5 volt and you have 3.3 volt, and this is the jumper. It is a little dark with shadow in the picture, but it's obvious on the board itself. So now let's look at the possible connection between the ESP32 Cam and the programmer. I find this connection over the net, where you connect GPIO 0 to ground, and you supply the voltage to the 5 volt pin on the ESP32 and the ground to the ground, and then you have the U0T on the ESP32. Let's look here again, which is the RX and TX. The RX is connected to the U0T, and the TX is connected to the U0R on the ESP32 Cam, which are showing here. These two lines. So to tell you the truth, I have tried to place the jumper on the 5 volt, and I burned the ESP32 Cam. I'm not sure if I have done another mistake, or maybe there was another wire connected to the 3.3 volt, which I didn't probably notice at the time. But this connection, many people are using it, and I don't see complaining. But I would like to keep the jumper on the 3.3 volt and not use the VCC at all. I supply external voltage, as we can see in this sketch. So I supply external 5 volt power supply to the ESP32 Cam, and we have a common ground because we connected the ground to the ground of the ESP32 Cam. Again, during the upload of the sketch, we have to short the GPIO 0 to the ground, and again the TXD is connected to GPIO 01, which is U0R, and the RXD is connected to GPI 03, which is labeled on the what you call it, the ESP32 Cam as U0R. Okay, so this is a very simple connection, and we will look now. Before we move, I would like to mention that's why we have to supply the 5 volt to the ESP32 cam and not the 3.3 volt. Many people observation, including myself, that the 3.3 volt is sufficient to upload the sketch into the ESP32 cam, and that's why if you position the jumper on the 3.3 volt and make this connection between the VCC and the 3.3, you should be able to upload the sketch into the ESP32 cam. But when you remove this jumper, in order to put the ESP32 cam into operation and start communicating with the serial port, the ESP32 cam will not function properly, and many people mention that the problem is in the voltage. The 3.3 is not sufficient to put the board into full operation, and that's why it is recommended that you, or actually it is in my case, I found the only way is to supply 5 volt to the board. Now once you want ready to put the board into operation, you have to remove this short or this jumper to be able to make the ESP32 cam function. And you can, in this setup, all what you have to do, because I will explain later, it is difficult to reach to the reset button. So what I do, I just remove this wire and put it again, and you can communicate with the serial port, keeping in mind that the programmer is still connected to the circuit, because it is the method of communication with the serial port on the Arduino kit. Now that's it. We will look at a simple shield that I made to make things a little more simpler in order to upload the sketch into this ESP32 board. Okay, that's it. Thank you. I hope you find this useful. This is a simple shield I made to program the ESP32 cam. This is for the jumper between GPI 0 and the ground. This is the external power supply to the ESP32 cam, and the programmer will go here in this header pin. And let's now install the programmer, or plug it actually. Okay, now I plugged the programmer on the shield facing, this is facing outside. Now if you look carefully, you will find that the programmer will swing, and that is why I placed this pad, it's adhesive tape, so that when I place the ESP32 cam, they will be held tight against each other and it will not move. Because if I leave it without this pad, you can see the pad here, if I don't install this pad, it will still swing and the power will get disconnected. So the shield has nothing, here the USB to connect to the programmer, and that's it. And many times that when you try to upload a sketch, you'll get error. I don't know why, from the looking for the port. So all what I have to do is to disconnect the USB and connect it again, and it will work. So this is just a reminder for myself. This is you connected to 5-volt power supply, very simple. So with this setup, you still can communicate with the serial port to make sure that the sketch is working. And that concludes my observation about the Esp32 Cam, and I hope this helps.